Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. So if you happen to be a lover of film, this is a place for you. So I wanted to just give a quick update. I know I released a video recently with my first Criterion Collection Barnes & Noble sale haul, and I picked up a couple more titles in a second haul a couple days ago. And the first title is Girlfriends, a film by Claudia Weill, which is a really good film that I just saw. And the second film is directed by John Stahl called Leave Her to Heaven. So I picked these two titles up after my first haul. So these are my second haul in the Barnes & Noble sale. So I'm looking forward to seeing this one, but the purpose of this video is to talk about this film right here, Girlfriends by Claudia Weill. And so I wanted to just share my thoughts and just give my sort of brief review of this Blu-ray release by Criterion. So when this was first announced a few months ago, I think what really drew me into this title was the cover. And that's really the case with so many Criterions, is they do such a good job with the design of the cover that it makes you want to know what's going on in this film. Who is this character? Who is she? What is she about? What's going on in her life? What is her journey? Where is she going, right? And so that's what really drew me in here. In addition to that, she has a camera here. Her character's a photographer, and I'm really into photography, so that was a big draw as well. So I definitely wanted to pick this film up, and I just looked at it the other night, and I have to tell you, it is really, really good. This is Girlfriends, a film by Claudia Weill. Came out in 1978 and was released by Warner Brothers. So this is the Criterion Collection Blu-ray. So my overall take is this is a very solid release by Criterion. When you look across the board, the movie itself, really good, and I'll get into that in a minute. The video presentation is solid, the audio presentation is solid, and Criterion has packed some really nice special features on this disc. This makes for a very solid release by Criterion. So what is Girlfriends about? So essentially, Girlfriends was released in 1978, and it's essentially a time capsule of New York City in the late 1970s, and it centers on human relationships, mainly female friendships, and the dynamics of how those friendships change over time. So the main character here is played by Melanie Mayron, and her character is Susan Whiteman, and she's living in an apartment with her roommate Anne, and Anne decides to marry her boyfriend and move out. So that changes the dynamics of their relationship, and so that's really what sets the movie off and begins the journey of the maturation of this character here as she sort of navigates her changing relationships with her friend Anne, with her other friends, with her boyfriend and love interest in the film. And this movie just beautifully portrays that maturation over time. So it shows how Susan's character evolves. It shows how Anne's character adapts to married life, to having a child and growing as a young woman into those new areas of responsibilities in her life, and how she's relating back to her friend Susan. And it just shows the dynamics of their relationships. And it does it in a very simplistic way, which I found to be very captivating. There's also a very strong supporting cast of this film that I'll read to you here, but basically you have Melanie Mayron, played by Susan Weinblock. You have Anne Monroe, her roommate, played by Anita Skinner. And then you have several other wonderful supporting cast members. Rabbi Gold, played by Eli Wallach. Martin, played by Bob Balaban. Martin is the husband of Anne, the roommate, former roommate of Susan. And Eric Allen is played by Christopher Guest. This is Susan's love interest. So this movie portrays the dynamics of the relationship between Susan and Anne and how that changes. It looks at the relationships between Anne and her new husband and how she's dealing with that relationship and also becoming a mother. It deals with Susan's relationship with her boyfriend and her other girlfriends. So this movie just beautifully portrays the dynamics of all those relationships in a very simplistic manner. It's just a very organic, earthy type of a feel of a movie. And you see that on the actual Blu-ray. When you look at the video presentation, from a video presentation standpoint, this is a 4K digital transfer, newly restored, that was supervised by director Claudia Weill. And overall, the picture quality looks very good, looks great actually. This is a film from 1978, and I will tell you that there is a layer of grain. It is grainy, it is organic, it's earthy looking. It's not what you would consider a typical clean 4K modern movie look. It doesn't have that look. It has a very organic, natural, filmic look to it. And the grain has been restored very well. The film has been restored very well. And the overall picture quality is solid. It doesn't look like a brand new movie. It's not intended to look that way. It looks very gritty and organic, and that is absolutely perfect for what this movie is about. It's a wonderful time capsule of New York City in the late 1970s, and the video transfer beautifully portrays that in a way that really makes you feel like you're in New York City in the late 1970s. So I think that's awesome. Video presentation, solid. From an audio standpoint, I believe the monaural soundtrack was remastered, and it sounds solid, sounds really good. This is a very dialogue-heavy movie, and you can hear everything very clearly, so no issues with the audio whatsoever. It's not the kind of audio that's gonna, rock your sound system or anything like that. It's just solid audio. You hear the dialogue very clearly, and it does the job. So from a video and audio standpoint, awesome, very good. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the supplements, and it's the supplements where I think Criterion oftentimes separates themselves from a lot of other movie distributors. And so this particular release from Criterion is not a completely stacked edition, but it's pretty close. There's a lot of very nice supplements on this disc, starting with, of course, obviously the 4K digital restoration, which is very good. We've already talked about that. But there's a really nice interview on here with director Claudia Weill that you ought to take a look at. And that interview with director Weill, she really talks about a lot about what went into making the film, what went into making this independent film, and just her overall movie making philosophy and her process for making films and her approach. And so watching that interview will give you a lot of insight into what's going on here in this particular movie and just her overall approach. I just found it really fascinating listening to her, and I highly recommend checking out that interview. And then the next is another interview that includes director Claudia Weill along with 3 of the actors who appeared in this movie. So you have Melanie Mayron, who played the main character in this film, Susan Whiteman. You've got Christopher Guest and Bob Balaban. Bob played the husband of Anne, who was Susan's roommate. And so this is a Zoom call style interview that was filmed earlier this year, where they're just recounting their experiences making this movie over 40 years ago. And it's just a really fascinating watch. And it's just a really fascinating watch, and I highly recommend it. And there's another interview on here with Vicki Poland, who did the screenplay on here, so screenwriter Vicki Poland. And then you've got another interview with Weill and filmmaker Joey Soloway, and then a couple of documentaries, Joyce at 34, a 1972 short film from Weill and Joyce Chopra. Commuters, another 1970 short film from Weill. And you have in here an actual stapled booklet, which I love when Criterion releases actual stapled booklets. So you have a couple of really nice essays in here from film critic Molly Haskell and film scholar Carol Gilligan. So, I highly recommend this release. Just tells you a lot about the film, this particular booklet, and about the characters, the actors, and so much of what went into making this really nice and wonderful independent film. And the more that you follow me on this channel, the more that you'll see that I have a thing for the 1970s, and I love movies that portray the 1970s. And this is a wonderful time capsule from 1978 of life in New York City in a very gritty, down-to-earth, real, organic living experience. And I just love movies like this that really gives you a glimpse of what life was like back then in New York City. So I highly recommend this. Check it out. This is a great release from Criterion. So there you have it. That's my review of Girlfriends, the Blu-ray edition from Criterion that was recently released. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this movie? Have you seen it? Have you picked this up as part of the Barnes & Noble sale? Do you plan to pick it up? What other titles are you looking to pick up in this Barnes & Noble Criterion Collection sale? We have a couple of weeks left in the sale. I believe it's ending November 30th. So there's still plenty of time to pick out some items on your wish list and fill up your library. So, continue to have fun with the sale. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this review, what you think about this film, what you think about director Claudia Weill. Have you seen other films from this director? I think this is the first movie from Claudia Weill that I've ever seen. And it makes me want to, check out her filmography and see what other gems that she has out there that I need to discover. So I'm going to want to check that out. But again, thanks for joining me today. If you like the content on this channel, please click subscribe and click the notifications so you can be aware of content when it comes out on this channel. And again, as always, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time at the movies. Peace.